Can you hear me? Okay, good morning everyone, and welcome to our presentation. First, special thanks to Dr. Musan for re-inviting me back to YUICT University. It's been a pleasure to joining YUICT's journey and becoming a true digital leader in KSA as well as in education business as well. So I'm from Otto van Guericke University in Magdeburg. Who knows Otto van Guericke? What did he invent? Well, not invent, but realize. He discovered a vacuum in the 17th century. So he invented the first vacuum pumps in the world. So he's been a true German engineer in that sense, in a German mindset, in developing things and making things smarter. So we can go back in decades and centuries in looking at smart things. My background is a couple of things. If you don't know SAP, the company I stand for, in the last more than 40 years have becoming the world's leader in business software. So everything, we talk about smart vending, Dr. Khaled used the smart vending example that we saw. You saw the logo on top, it said SAP Smart Vending. So SAP is behind most of everyone's transactions. If you go to Starbucks, buy a cup of coffee, you probably hit transaction within any SAP system. If you buy chocolate, if you buy gasoline for a car, it's probably fueled by SAP software. The SAP University Alliances program, which I am responsible for in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, has been providing free of charge software licenses for more than 30 years to the academic community. So the program today is providing for more than 3,500 universities for their teaching, research, and co-innovation initiatives on campuses. In KSA alone, we're talking and working with 20 universities. So I've been Khalifa University also. I just visited them in November in UAE. Also talked to them about their journey from becoming a digital leader in education, in developing their governmental and also their business environments. So my team at the University of Magdeburg is one out of 6 centers globally, university competence centers, that are hosting SAP software for university purposes. Okay? So my center alone, that's about 30 people that are under my wing, are hosting for more than 500 universities in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, SAP solutions for their various academic purposes, as I said. So today's talk is specifically on smart things, and it does not stop with IoT. I mean, every trend that you've seen on Gartner's Hype Cycle will be incorporated in smart things to already be available for business today or for research today, as well as for the things to come. I gave this talk, this keynote speech, to various audiences, to sports science. Yesterday I talked to a physical ed professor at Princess Sultan University, for example, on the same topic. So this is domainless, or let's say inter-domain topics that I'm talking here. So that's why I'm going to start my smart tour of today in the next 40 minutes. And I'll try to make this in those time frames. On a generic definition of what smart thing really means in any given sense. When you talk to your kids, you need to explain to them, because they will be growing up in a world where smart things are already around them, and they will be surrounded by much more things. I do not believe that smart things will replace human brains, as the question was in the audience just a minute ago. They will be helping us to do our job and our life better, but they don't replace humans. The creativity within things have not reached a capacity that they can compete with human beings. There's already all algorithms drawing paints like Monet or artists, and they are coming really close, but they're just copying the ideas of artists around us. So art being one of the main things, culture, they will not be replaced by things. I'll give you a couple of more examples, and Dr. Khaled already did a great job in highlighting some of them that are already around us. My final goal of the presentation, the key takeaway of this, is really a level of smartness, because not everything is as smart as another thing. So how do you grade what is smarter than another thing? And there is already ideas and categorization principles in saying what thing is smarter than another one. I want to slowly and only quickly touch on smart societies as well, as the model of this conference or this forum is also on developing a country or developing a society, and how smart things can help this. So I'll add an appraisal of some of the things I will cover, But I also add some criticism on this. I mean, again, we Germans, and again, we have the strongest data privacy laws in the world. There is some criticism attached to most of the topics we're talking about here. Last, I want to finish off with some skills, and again, I'm an academic and teacher and trainer myself, on what I think are the skills for digital transformation that we truly need to have students to know today, so when they graduate in 2 years or 3 years from now, that they are prepared not only for jobs, to find reliant, secure jobs for the time being, but also live in a digital era, which they will definitely be given. You cannot avoid that, it's there. So just a couple of quick rounds going through here. According to some prestigious libraries and dictionaries, smart basically refers to a thing being intelligent and can quickly react to given situations in a moment. So you can refer to smart as to a human being, as to an animal, or to a thing itself, but it has a quick intelligence that can react to a given new approaching situation. If you look at the thing definition, again, also any generic thing, not the thing in a specific sense. It is an inanimate object, so it is not a human being, it's not an animal, it's not a living thing, it's a dead thing, but it can be smart. So how do you add smartness to a dead thing? The thing in IT, coming back to our context in ICT, it is referred to by TechTarget, for example, as an entity or physical object, as Dr. Hallett also pointed out, with 3 specific characteristics. It needs to be uniquely identified. Again, key collision, I mean, by 10 exponent 48, that's almost impossible. So you need to uniquely identify a thing on the internet, or on the network somehow. It carries embedded technology, any type filter, we will see examples of this later, and it has the ability to transfer data over a given network, whether this is smartphone, wired, near area communication, whatever, but it needs to be able to transmit data to another sense. The Internet of Things presentation, we saw the definition already in the presentation before, is then the network of those things or those physical objects that have embedded technology that can communicate and sense, but also interact with their own elements within the same system as well as with external elements of the surrounding environment. So this goes back to the engineering system theory, if you are familiar with that in engineering, and also other system theory dialects in other disciplines. So when you put these together, so that makes a smart thing, right? So a smart device, as the Oxford Dictionary just put it generically again, it is programmed to be capable of reacting on its own or on independent action in a given situation. Gartner, again, I mean, they're familiar with researching and putting out trends and also definitions. A smart machine is something more than that. It's not only reacting or independently reacting and acting on something that is occurring, but also has the ability to learn on its own. When we talk about deep learning algorithm, this is already implemented within things today. So I partially disagree. It's not in a centralized way anymore. Car today can process data on its own. It does not send all the data to a cloud. It can process much of this data on the 80 CPUs that are on the car itself. So it is the capability to learn on its own and to produce any unanticipated results or predictions or prescriptions that humans should do. I also brought, because I will go back to the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany again later on in my talk, just an example of things with the manufacturing only. So this is still the top 1 IoT sector that's implementing IoT devices, IoT technology. It's not anymore only the raw material or the finished good or the semi-finished good that becomes smart. So it directs you through a lot size 1 manufacturing cycle, for example. It's the manufacturing tools itself, so the tools that manufacture assemble the material. It's the utilities, the coolant in an engine is already so smart that it can detect the temperature, not only at one area, but one single point within the engine. If you look at Formula 1 cars, they have coolant sensors in the coolant, 2 liters of coolant within the engine that can detect temperature at different areas within the engine itself. Because it's highly important to know what exactly is the temperature difference in centigrades, for example. And the same packaging material, we had the example with the cool or the temperature sensor within food when it's shipped from the original plant to your fridge. That's exactly what it does. So they become smart. Smart shipping or smart transportation means can detect any failures or thresholds that they exceed while they are being shipped or being produced and ordered by the customer. So everything around a given supply chain or given process is becoming smart. And there's no end to this, because as long as we are creative enough to develop new scenarios and new use cases, there will be things doing this. So now let me give you a couple of very intriguing, mind-blowing examples where IoT and where smart things have already entered today's world. It's not science fiction you're seeing. These are live examples that are already there. Smart clothes, we mentioned them. I mean, it started with a simple application from Paul Ralph Lauren, where they said, we can track your 24 hours, so every single second in your day, your heart rate, your blood pressure, your BPM, your oxygen saturation during the day, whenever you're sleeping, when you're awake. So this is being tracked and sent to your mobile device, or any mobile device you want this to be going to. But it has been developing into an industry where you can give out these shirts or these t-shirts to people who need it. For example, if your mom or your grandma is having diabetes or heart disease and they need to go see a doctor every day to get their blood pressure checked, well, they don't need to do this anymore, because that shirt is checking their blood pressure not only once a day, ubiquitously at home, but this checking the blood pressure at night. So if the shirt itself realizes critical conditions for that patient at home, I mean, I would even relate to a patient being at home. It's a human in their typical environment. So then this sends a signal to the hospital, or to whoever you want. I mean, you can send it to your spouse, to your doctor, to the hospital. You may not want to send your physical fitness data to your mother-in-law, or to your health insurance company, or to your Facebook friends, but you may want to share this data with somebody that you trust and that you want to know if you have achieved your new marathon in under 3 hours, or whether you have a critical heart condition or blood pressure condition overnight, for example. So these are numerous examples where ubiquitous things, variables around us can help to improve our lives. Again, we are deciding which data we are sharing with whoever is interested in that data. Smart home being another huge topic. I mean, that's the top two environment where IoT devices are being exploited right now. Who of you does know Ring.com, a company based in California? They're producing doorbells. They started with doorbells, similar communication means, so you can see the people that just knock on your door.
They are making commercial in CNN every time.
They're everywhere. I mean, you can follow them. It's a great company, another startup company that I've been following for quite some time. They've just been bought by Amazon. So why would Amazon buy a company that you can connect to people that are knocking on your door? Well, they are integrating this into their supply chain already, right? So seeing and talking to people that are in front of you. So idea behind Amazon is, if you can unlock the door for the delivery guy from Amazon, why would you need to be home if they deliver food to your fridge? That's the future, right? I mean, they just come with your fresh food to be delivered to your home. You don't need to be there because you can let them in, seeing them who that is, or guarantee this by authorizations, and let them into your private home for them to refill your fridge. That's the future. That's what's going to be implemented. It's already there research projects that's going to be implemented soon. So what were the first devices that became smart? In Germany, I don't know, and I don't know how it's here, but energy in Germany at night is cheaper than it is over the day. So if you run your washing machine at night, you spend 30% of your costs, because you simply turn it on. You don't turn it on, you don't need to get up at 2 o'clock at night. So the machine became smart enough, so you can program it to start at 2 o'clock at night. In the basement, you can hear it just do the same thing it would do a day, but it does it at night. So you can save on energy costs because you're balancing the energy grid, for example, by taking energy not over day, but at night. The second big thing was surveillance cameras. Ring.com is one big example of this that has been using the same example in an IoT device world to connect to your home, whatever you're going. Seeing any intruders or any someone ringing up you at your own house. Another example is any utilities companies that are there. I was in a research project recently with Consumers Energy. It's a Michigan-based water and energy supply company. And they've implemented in, I think, the last 2 years only 1.8 smart meters in private homes. So they've replaced all the meters they need to go through and read once a year, 2 smart meters. So they can just drive by a truck and pick up the signal of the smart meters, or they can individually send us by telecommunication means to the central headquarters. So they know the exact consumption when a consumer is using energy and water and sewage and whatever. And they can also make this back available to the users for their own benefit of seeing, okay, when am I using energy, what is my daughter doing overnight using their computer and whatever. So that's the thing that you want to share with the company. The surprising thing in that project that I was a part of is they saved a lot of costs in insurance, health insurance companies, because what they found, the 2,700 meter readers, human beings coming to your home and checking your meter in the old days, they don't need to go there anymore. So the likelihood of being bit by a dog getting to somebody's house was diminished to almost 0. So people were just getting bit, dog, sick, staying at home and not appearing at work. So this went away. The whole work security of people being close to hazardous situations, and if it's only a dog, has become dramatically lower in that sense. And of course it saved costs for the energy company dramatically. I'm German, so you know Germans like cars, or driving cars. So the smart car example are going to be on the slide set as well. Some of the key trends within smart cars or automotives is connected cars. Cars are being connected with the outside world, not only for the matter of having free Wi-Fi in your car, which is convenient, but it's not really the sense why automobile companies put this in. They want to know where you are, what you do, what the condition of your car is, when they want to send you to a mission. The next one is it's detecting or predictive inspection. So it's detecting any critical conditions of your car. If your tires are running out of the parameter is not strong enough anymore, then they recommend for you to go change your car tire, for example, at the garage. Or if it is a critical condition that the car tire is going to blow because it has a critical condition, losing running a flat tire, then it will immediately stop the car, just to prevent you from having an accident from that hazardous situation in the car. So those assistance systems or assisting systems have become very common in cars. I mean, as we said, there's numerous CPUs in the car, not for the benefit of just calculating data, but for the benefit of assisting the driver to a state where they can safely get from A to B, not hitting anyone and also not get hurt themselves. And to a state where autonomous driving is technically possible. I mean, you've seen the examples there, the flying drones. I've seen them in Dubai already and worked with Uber is in the city of Dubai and RTA. I think it's RTA that are in the project. So they're already experimenting with this. So you can expect the science fiction field of just stepping outside the metropolis and seeing flying drones carrying human bodies, human beings around in air. That's coming. That's not science fiction anymore. So you want to move to a more remote area in the soon future, not to be swirling around by taxis and helicopters in the metropolis. Another thing, augmented reality. So you see all these trends are appearing in different domains or different industries. Augmented reality, I mean, I was driving the BMW 5 Series 10 years ago, when they had the head-up display already. So when they displayed the street speed limit in Germany, there's speed limit sometimes, on the head windshield, so you can see that not being distracted by a little monitor next to you, but you can see it on the windshield, not distracting you from driving your car safely. So these are all innovations around cars, fleet management. Just to mention a couple more, telematics, all data from the car that is being produced is sent to and processed within the car while you're driving in real time. So not looking afterwards how well you drove, but it's calculating this data in real time. Smart streetlights, another thing that doesn't come to your mind when you think about smart solutions, but cities are spending a lot of money and energy to lighting places to be secure. So the city of Chicago, for example, has already implemented 250 million smart LEDs within their city premises. And the biggest advantage of an LED is it's dimmable. So you can dim the power that you use on an LED device, depending on outside lighting. So if you have a full moon night, why would you lit up the whole street? Because it's lit by the moon already. If it's in the dawn or the dusk hours of the day, you can also dim the lights down. You can only use them when they are necessary to be used, right? So the city of Chicago, I know, have saved 40% of energy only by implementing LED devices in their city. And they're not smart yet, they just turn them on and off. I mean, they don't do much more yet with the same technology. Predictive maintenance on light bulbs as well. Although an LED is more likely to work for 10,000 hours instead of just a couple hundred hours for a normal light bulb, it still can predict when it's going out, because you want to make sure that street lights are on, because they are securing safety in driving and passengers and pedestrians walking around. But the new thing in street lights is really machine-to-machine communication. So why would you have a street light on all night if there's no car passing by, if there's no human being here? Why would you light this just to catch bugs from the air? Why would you? So why can't a street light be lit only if a human being or if a car is passing by that specific light bulb, for example? So you would dramatically reduce energy consumption in cities, in smart cities, by only using a street light when it's necessary, and not just have it on just because you want to use it. Okay, so that's another scenario. Staying with the street example, street signs. The earliest smart street signs basically displayed messages or information to the drivers. Hazardous conditions of the car, icy roads, there's an elk on the street, so drive down, you'll get hit by those huge animals, etc. So those were the dumber smart devices that were introduced as smart street signs. If you look at this and take this further on today's technology, augmented reality will actually kill street signs. I mean, why would you need to have a street sign if you in your car see every possible information you need to know to drive a car on your windshield? Why would you have a street sign stay there in a physical device that doesn't change over time, conditions, anything? If you can put this or push this information to the actual consumer of that information while driving or walking on the street. So that's, I mean, Google Glasses will become obvious. So you will have information near your eyesight instead of looking at street signs in that sense. And another thing is, and again back to machine communication, why would you need to have clear traffic lights in a traffic anymore? If every car would talk to the other car, they would negotiate who is going first and second. Why would you need to have traffic lights, right? They can much more optimizingly organize traffic if they would talk to each other. If you look at the airplane industry, the TCAS system, so when two airplanes getting close to each other in air, they will lock into a mode where they would communicate technically, so autopilotly, to each other to avoid being crashing into each other. That's technology from the 80s, 30 years ago. It's already there. So now they're putting this technology also in cars, so they can talk to each other's car. They don't need any centralized servers anymore, because they negotiate on the road where and who is going first and second and which way direction. And they can do this much better than pushing it by latency over the internet to a central server and then being directed what to do. So that's the world to come, for having autonomous thinking cars that will talk. I've seen research projects that have already run this in real life. A smart plant, again, I'm racing through this because I know my time is limited. You can catch me over a coffee break later on and chat about that or contact me. Smart plants, it's amazing what's already happening in manufacturing as of today. It's not, it's real. Everything becomes connected in manufacturing today. So they can check the state of each tool, coolant, utility that you're using within the manufacturing cycle. Smart logistics, I mean, there are so much cost involved in unnecessary logistics or breaking or time that's been spent on waiting on others. If you're running a refinery, and again, I've been to Yango and Jubal Industrial College, I've seen big refinery operations, and I know how much costs are involved in moving things from A to B. So to just limit the cost by 1% is already a huge impact to those industries, right? So by carrying a GPS signal on everything, human beings, the truck, the actual part, and anything that's on that construction area, on that refinery plant, is helping to organize and to foster a fluid, seamless integration in the supply chain when it comes to logistics and transportation. Also worker safety, not to mention a couple of them. Lot size one is one of the key principles of Industry 4.0 to make sure that the actual part is guiding its manufacturing cycle, and not that the manufacturing plant is guiding it through its own manufacturing axle. So if you have a rush order within your car manufacturing industry, for example, you just tell the car that this needs to be expedited, and it talks to the tools and machines, so it's automatically expedited through your production line. None of the tools knows that. Only when it comes up to their station, they know that they need to expedite this one good because there's a rush custom order. And then everything acts on this criteria, or this information given there. What else? Digital twin. Who knows the digital twin technology? Who's used digital twin already in any given field? Look into this. If you want to see this in live, VW, so Volkswagen Germany, they have a glass plant in Dresden, Germany. It's just 1 hour from Magdeburg, so I've been there multiple times. It's a plant without any human beings, so it's only operated by robots. There's no human soul on that organization. As you can see in the picture, there's only one human being sitting behind a glass wall of control room type, and they're controlling the whole operation of 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer operation of producing car manufacturing automobiles. And the glass, so all the information, so all the conditions of every given machine that you can see in the hall is projected onto that glass wall. So if I would be moving in front of the wall, it would move with it, because it would always be pointing to the asset in the background and to the equipment. So it will tell the operator in real time which condition a specific tool, type, parts, whatever in the hall has theirs. Auxiliary sensors, voice sensors, rattling sensors on the machines that are feeding data to that control room. There's no other human being that ever touches a tool in that plant. Now you can imagine why also large corporations are really inviting manufacturing into their home countries, right? It's not in China anymore. They're reintroducing this to Germany and the United States, because if you eliminate the human factor in production, then why would you do it in cheaper labor countries running operations there? You put it where you need the cars, and not where you find cheap labor in that sense. I think that's my last example, or last industry that I'm presenting on here. And this is smart medicine. Again, huge, it's also top 3 or top 4 industry in applying IoT devices as of today already. I've been in a project with Charité, the biggest hospital in Germany, in Berlin, on smart hospital beds. This smart hospital bed costs $30,000, as much as a car costs, because it keeps the patient's data throughout the whole stay within the hospital. When you move that patient, the bed moves with them, so it knows exactly which knee to take off or which leg to take off, so that the surgeon will not take off the wrong leg, which sounds hilarious, but it happens in real life. So it keeps all the conditions of that patient while it's being monitored 24/7 on the bed, and that's communicating to the security devices, to the surgeons, and to the patient management within the system itself. Smart medicine or smart drugs will become an issue, or not an issue, will become a reality. FDA is just last year, the agency that is regulating medicine in the United States, has just approved the first smart drug in the United States, end of last year. This drug is not releasing any chemicals to your body yet. I'm saying yet because I think this coming from 2 years from now, it will be allowed to release pain medicine, for example. If you're taking pain medicine, most of the pain medicine is taken for no sense because you take it at the wrong time. Right? Patients cannot guide when they take the pain pills, so they are basically killing their liver rather helping their system. So you can take a smart drug that applies in 2 years, not today, and that applies pain medicine to your body when it's needed and not when you think you need it. Right? So the pill that is being confirmed already by FDA, you can swallow it, and it's actually detecting whether a patient is taking their pills. So yesterday, I think by the Oracle keynote, we saw somebody that you can collect data about the patient and kind of project whether they are taking their medicine or not. Well, this is really giving you proof because it detects chemical reactions within your body whether you're taking the pills that are prescribed to you. So you're a patient of dementia or Alzheimer's. I mean, you forget to take your pills, which is vital for your being or well-being. So these drugs are collecting data whether you're taking your pills actually, and then sending the information to your loved ones or to your doctor or to whomever. And then the whole thing of genome analysis, human genome or plant genome analysis, this is big. I mean, this is already happening. I've been at Chaos, they run huge genome program there, based on SAP technology as well. So I can just invite you, if you're ever in that field, there is numerous research not been done yet, so it's still being detecting new topics and fields within this area as well. Okay, to rounding up this by, as I said, the final sense of my presentation is, so what do all these things have in common? They are smart, and they are smart things. So, but how do you differentiate the level of smartness of things within a not living thing? And again, being German, I take the example of the car. So you can take any other example, and we've heard example before of things that have become smarter or become smarter. So the dumb object in this sense to start with is the standard car. I'm not talking about the car today, not with 80 CPUs. I'm talking about the VW Beetle in the 60s, right? No assistance systems, just sit in and drive, the typical thing that a car was supposed to do before they added sensors and displays. So every sensor was in the car, and the sensor is the speedometer on the car. The speedometer is catching the speed of the car, and it's displayed within the car by a simple pointer. That's a display on a sensor in a car that was put in many decades ago. It's one example, but there's, of course, more numerous and modern examples as well. The second phase in that sense was to add local processing power. Right? So if you look at, for example, the anti-lock system, so if the car recognizes by their sensors of the four wheels that you are driving on a hazardous ground, on an icy road, for example, it would automatically react and keep the car safe on a safe passage on the road. This is local processing. It's not sent to a server. I mean, this was before cloud computing was ever invented or centralized systems were invented. So these was processing power within the car to make sure that the car kept on a stable condition when you're driving an icy road. Fuel control is another thing. If you're racing, like the Formula 1 drivers do, you spend a lot more fuel. If you're going uphill for the last 10 kilometers, your fuel may not last as long as it would standardly do if you have been racing small or just driving slowly and downhill. So this is autonomously calculating your fuel intake of the car of the last 10 minutes, 10 hours, whatever. Geolocation was another invention that was made. So for any given object to know where it is on the globe, 2 minutes? That's right. On the globe is helping in navigating from A to B. I mean, this is now a common thing. I think many of us will not live without the communication things that we have. And every GPS sensor on our smartphones is already helping ourselves to navigate through traffic and from A to B. Internet connectivity, again, it's not only for the sense of having free of charge internet on the car to listen to your favorite tunes or to your news channel while you're driving, but it's also for emergency calls. If the car sensors realize that you've been stopping from 80 kilometers an hour to 0 in only 5 meters, there's probably an accident because you hit something very solid. So they're going to call the emergency team right away. So they don't wait for anybody seeing you having an accident and then go in there and helping you, but they are sending out the ambulance right away. Centralized processing, again, now we come to cloud computing. One example that I've been in was Audi, German car manufacturer as well. Everyone knows in populated cities the problem of finding car spots, right? So every car today around themselves have sensors that are checking on the perimeter of the car. Little cameras that are checking the distance to other cars, for example, when you're trying to park your car. So why can't the information of these cameras be used for a more similar sense? So if you're driving by in a car on parked cars, your cameras realize when there's an open car spot, parking spot. If you don't need it, why can't you share this information with the central server? So you just tell the central server, I've just passed by an open parking spot, and just tell anybody else, or sell this information to anybody else that are trying to find an open parking spot for them to park their car. So this is a centralized idea, and it's now been a startup company actually delivering this. In realizing, so identifying open parking spots and making this available to the wider sense. Autonomous driving, we've talked about this, complex autonomous processing within the car. So you put the cloud processing power back onto the car. Again, 20 years ago, impossible because the processing power wasn't there. Today, in order for the car to manufacture, to move on itself and to calculate on itself, you need to have the processing power within the car itself. So you put it back into the car and calculate this in real time. Again, it cannot take 10 seconds to realize whether it's a street sign or a truck that is stopping in front of you. It needs to be in a split second. If it's slower than this, then it's senseless for the driver because they get killed in their cars. Machine-to-machine communication I've mentioned, so once cars would be communicating to each other, then you would be able to do road conditions that a car driving in front of you 1 kilometer will tell you in your car that they just hit an icy road. You don't wait for somebody to realize it's putting up on a street sign. They would communicate amongst each other, the cars, and warning others of hazardous conditions in that sense. So eventually, you would be grading your level of smartness within a thing by eventually coming up to developing new business value. Car companies are not doing this just because they want to play with technology. I mean, some Germans do, but engineers do. But they would like to eventually create business value. So by finding the information on your own car that there's a free parking spot in a crowded area, this is value add for this company. They can sell this information coming out of your private car. It's a decision whether you want to share this information with everybody else. So let me skip the smart city slide. To spend 2 minutes on different smart cities in the world. Let me just skip this one. And let me come to some of the criticism that you could have heard and seen on smart cities. The earliest are from the 1930s. I don't know whether Lewis Mumford was a social scientist that would be thinking about how you can cities make smarter and what the relationship should be between the city and the inhabitants within that city. So he was already foreseeing an interrelation between the city's smarter things, and this was cars by that time, or electrified metros, and the relation with human beings around them. So this started that criticism over then. If you look at this, if you want to read a very polemic article on smart cities, I'd recommend Robert Holland's Would the Real Smart City Please Stand Up? Because it's verifying to the way definition of what smart really means. Again, back to my little category that I created there, thanks to the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany. It really is a nice read. Again, it's not a research article. It's really a polemic article. It's already 10 years old, but it's still worth reading. But there's also common sense, or more modern, more recent publications on also criticizing the way that we are making things smarter that are affecting us as human beings in a way that we sometimes do not want to be manufactured or being controlled by the outside world. My last slide I want to show, I mean there's more, is a couple of data, again, being a German I need to address this. And I know we had the question in the audience yesterday on ethics, business ethics, using smart things. So I'll take this as a first question from the audience if I may. And respond to this from yesterday. First of all, security in distributed complex systems is expensive. The way why hackers are breaking those systems is because they're complex to begin with, and it's expensive and costly to really implement the foolproof security. Technically, it's possible. Don't get me wrong. I mean, engineers have been finding every way to predict and to avoid hacking attacks or data privacy breaches in companies. You can always detect it down to the human error within that process chain, or for most cases at least. But it is expensive to check and to implement a foolproof security on those systems. I still believe we need to be better at that, but it is costly, so companies are saving on that. Then another saying that I keep telling my students when they just are smiling on a free app, again, that they just downloaded, nothing in life is for free. Just tell your kids, your students, your fellow members of your communities, whenever there's a free app that you download, you pay with your private data, period. right? Facebook's everything. You share private data of yourself, and you need to be telling your students, your kids. I mean, I'm teaching my kids. My daughter's 12, my son is 8. So they need to know this. My wife has recently downloaded an app that you can scan documents with, and it just comes up as a document to be printed. Well, the problem with it, and she didn't realize that the camera was kept on all time. So when the app was running, she was taking live videos of her surroundings sent to a central server of their company. I don't want that. She doesn't want that. She didn't pay attention to what she had accepted on the conditions when she downloaded the app. So these are things that we need to be aware of, that companies, organizations, app owners are trying to not betray us. I mean, they want to be good to us. They want to be actually creating convenience in our private life. We need to decide of how many data privacy we want to give up to those apps. If I consent on it, that's fine. Do whatever you want with my data if you want this. If you do not want, if you're not informed, and in Germany there's laws, we talked about GDPR already, you need to be consentfully informed that your data is being used for what purpose. The example yesterday when the call center is recognizing your mood on the phone, that's impossible in Germany unless you have given the written, not the written, but the oral consent that this is okay for you. It will be asking you, do you want your voice to be taken? If you press 1, it's okay. If you press no, it's not okay. So that cannot be done on you without consentfully giving the allowance to the company, for example. Safety versus control. Video surveillance in cities increase security, I agree. But do you know who is taking their data? If you're telling your insurance company today that you are walking 10 kilometers a day so you get a refund from the company at the end of the year, they can prove by video surveillance in the city that you don't, that you only use the bus and the car and you just get to work and sit at the desk for 10 hours a day, then they can just fine you. So do you know whether the surveillance cameras are transmitting that information of you personally to any other company in the world? No, you don't. So you want to know what your data is. It's transferred to. The last thing I want to mention on, and then that's my last slide for today, social scoring. I won't mention the country, and you probably have heard it on the news. Countries are trying to control inhabitants or citizens of their state, of their government or municipalities. So in a way that they are trying to politically interact with your private life. Let's say if you're moving to a state where you are consistently following a country's rules, whatever that may be, that may entry up in a gamification way. So in the gamification you would earn points in acting politically correct, right? And you would be taken off points if you feed your babies non-biotic or natural food, if you are not attending, mass events at your home city, for example. You will not be allowed to universities if you're not having a standard point set, for example. So their social scoring becomes an issue within not only countries but also societies that is using our private data to judge on us and to try to change our behavior. And then, I believe, you probably too, then it becomes dangerous for a society itself because we are guided by algorithms or by 1, 2, 3 people and not the whole common sense of a democratic state. So with that, there's more presentation on. I can share the slides to whomever, you can share them with the audience, that's fine. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Up to that point, there will be a couple more slides. I'm open for a couple of questions, I hope. If not, catch me in the coffee break later on. Thanks for your attention. Thank you.